Miss LeeAnn's Place here. I'm back with part 2 of the lesson Plants, Parts of a Plant, and we're going to go over the activities that are linked below, all of them from Teachers Pay Teachers. It's free to create an account, and all of the activities that I suggest are free. We are going to tweak them a bit, and I'm going to show you how to do that to make them work for a Montessori work cycle, which is what we're into. So this is the first sheet that I suggest that you print out, and it's parts of a plant. It's something we went over in our last video. It's very similar to the page that I showed you and that we learned directly from. So there's 3 ways really that you could utilize this page. The first would be the obvious for slightly older children, where you cut out the parts of a plant and you put them into the correct places. However, that is not, that doesn't have a way for them to self-correct, and that is definitely a trait of a Montessori work, is that they would be able to have some means to know if it's right or wrong for themselves. So a way that we can do that is several things. You can cut this out. Well, one, you could do it one-on-one with them and help them to know the correct thing. You can read them the vocabulary down here, the different parts of a plant, and you could glue it to the correct space. A lot of my students love cutting and gluing, and that's great skills for them to have. So I would encourage you, even if you need to print out 2 of these, to let them at least with one of those cut and glue, because it's a good skill and one that they need practice with continually, and they really enjoy it. They really feel like they've completed something that's theirs to keep versus a work that's used over and over. I will say that this has a little tricky one, and I know that my students would not like that. They would feel like they were not complete with this if there was one word left that did not have a spot to glue. So what I would do, if it was just a regular day here at Miss LeeAnn's Place, is right here where it says sunlight, which there is not while that is something a plant needs, that is not a part of a plant. But I would maybe, when it's done, say we have an extra word and it's sunlight. And while it's not part of the plant, sunlight is very important to the plant. God provides sunlight so the plant can grow and make its own food. And maybe encourage them to be creative and draw their own sun up here at the top. And then you could use the word sunlight to label it so they feel like they've really truly completed the work. That's what I would suggest to do. 2 other ways you can use this work is you can cut across here at the bottom, cut out these labels, and make it a work that they would do over and over. Of course, it's best if you can laminate it. I understand that not everybody has the means to do that during this time. It'll last a few days if on cardstock or even just on this paper. And we always encourage our friends to be easy with their work. This is their work. They want them to be proud of it and take very much care and work with it very carefully and take care of what God has provided us. So again, you would just cut it out and they could label the plant. Now again, there's no control of error with that. So here's what we could do. You could put dots on here. So you might put 1 dot here, and then you would put 1 dot on the back of the word roots. Encourage the child to try first to label the plant and then flip it over to see if the dots match. That way they can check themselves and see if they are correct. And I'll show you more what I mean by that, what I've already done with another work we're going to continue with. The last way that you could use this work is to cut everything out, laminate if possible, or print on cardstock, and you would take a marker or a pencil or whatever you'd like and draw the correct word in the correct box, and the child may match the word. They may match the word. Now that's just them matching, but that's a great skill as well, and it's just very important that they either rewatch the lesson number 1, where we go over parts of a plant, or that you sit with them in a lesson and go over it each day to help them remember what they're learning. All right, so that is one of our activities that can be used as a paperwork or during your work cycle. Quarantine hair, guys. I'm trying. I need a haircut so bad. All right, the second thing we're going to do gets us kind of outside, possibly, and lets us see an actual seed growing. Normally a seed has to go down in the ground, but this is a way that your child can see from the very beginning the little sprout coming forth from the seed, and it's very cool. So I encourage you in our first video to see if you have these things around your house. It could either be a coffee filter or it could be a paper towel. We have more of an abundance of these, and so we chose to use coffee filters. Any size baggie that you have an abundance of, there's just a little baggie and then one single bean. Now, if you have them to spare, I might encourage you to do 2 beans because you never know, one might not sprout and you want to have a little extra insurance there. So these are some that we've done a few days ago. This is actually my Adelie's. Let me see if I can make this close for you guys. Can you see that? The little sprout is coming out. It's coming out. It took a few days. We almost lost hope for some of our beans, but even today, I believe it's like 5 days later, some of them have just sprouted. And so keep courage and keep hope, and maybe your bean will sprout. Let me see if I can take this one out and show you a little closer. And you can continue to let your bean grow for as long as you think is necessary in the baggie. And when it gets big enough, you can plant it and it will grow and grow, and you'll even be able to see those really cool baby leaves that have the food inside of them. You'll notice that they're thicker and of a different shape than the leaves that will come later on the more mature plant. Okay guys, so that is the roots on the bean. I think that's so cool that you can see that from the very conception of that plant. So cool. So that's a fun activity to do. I encourage you, everyone in the family, do one. Mom and Dad too. And you're going to need to hang them either in a sunny window like the one behind me, or we put ours on the fence row and hung them, not in direct sunlight all day, but enough that any plant would need. And it doesn't matter if they get wet or not. Just make sure that you moisten your coffee filter or paper towel. We folded ours like this and put the little beans on it. And if you see that it's drying out, I would definitely encourage you to wet that again, maybe with a spray bottle, or just take it out, wet it and wring it out a bit. And that should keep your plant with the things that it needs, which we will learn about in tomorrow's video. Okay guys, there are 2 more activities that I have the links for you to print that we can make Montessori for the most part. The next one is going to be this right here, and it's a sequencing work. Now, you will print out the page and you'll cut out the cards. I believe there are 6. I have to see in just a second. Use any containers you have around the house. Like I have tons of these little things in baskets. If you know Miss LeeAnn, you know she loves baskets. I have so many, and I love bringing out different ones for different seasons. But even if it's a Tupperware container, even a zippy bag, guys, if that's all you have, it's okay. We're not trying to be perfect here. We're just trying to get through quarantine. And you can put these out in a place where your child has access to them whenever they like. And I would encourage you, if your child wants to sit here and do this work 50 times in a row, that is a good thing. Allow them the freedom to repeat. Okay, you want them to have the freedom to repeat, and the freedom of movement, and the freedom of choice. Okay, those are the 3 freedoms of Montessori: the freedom of movement, the freedom of repeating, and the freedom of choice. That means that if it's appropriate, some works we do encourage at the table, like writing works, but if it's appropriate, allow them to spread out on the floor on their mat in their space. Allow them to move, to get up and move. If your child is having trouble concentrating with this work, put the cards across the room and they have to go get the next one for you and cross the room and use their bodies to do that. It makes a big difference in their attention span. And then of course the freedom to repeat, as we've said, that is something we want them to try and try and try at things. Of course, at some point in a school environment, we would kind of give them a little nudge forward to something new and possibly more challenging if they just got this like that. But we certainly want them to have that love of learning and want them to repeat over and over until they have mastered something. So these are the little cards. They're sequencing cards, so one's going to come after the other. So first we have the seed, and they would lay them out in a line. So seed, and I'll show you a shot of this after I've laid it all out. And then the next thing would be the seed with the roots. You can see it's a little bit, you can see the little sprout coming out of the seed. And then next you would have the seed with a root and a little sprout coming out the top. It's a little bit bigger. Okay. Then you would have a little bit longer root, and it's come out the ground now, so it's a sprout, and you see those little food leaves right there. And then you have an even bigger plant with more root systems. And then you have a mature plant with a huge root system and mature leaves. Okay, so yes, there are 6 cards that they're sequencing. I have different cards like this in our normal work cycle. They are story sequencing of different things, and it's sometimes more challenging than you think for the child. So make sure not to get frustrated, to encourage them to see the tiny differences in the videos. And here's how we're going to make this have a control of error, which means the child can check for themselves if they're correct or not. And so here's what we're going to do. On the back of these, in a pencil, I did pencil so that you can't see it through the front of the card. We're going to put a dot and a 1. So 1. And this is what we can say. This is 1, this says 1. And your child knows. I know all of my students preschool age know that this is 1, and they know that after 1 comes 2. And so this is 2, and they will know that 2 comes next. And then onward with 3, 4, 5, and 6. So that way, once they've already done it, with the pictures facing up, not looking to the back, they have to use their self-control and their honesty to not look on the back to see, okay? And that will, when they're done, they can flip it over and make sure they have them in the right order. And of course, you're there to check as well. Okay guys, the next activity I have in this little basket. It's also one that you can print out from Teachers Pay Teachers. And when you do that, print 2 copies. It's only going to give you 1. Print 2 of them, and that's to create a matching game. Everyone knows what the matching game is. I would encourage you to go through each picture and discuss with your children what these objects are and these tools are and how they can be used in the garden. It makes for great conversation. Definitely do that the first time that you're doing this activity. This is a great activity they can do with siblings. They can make it a game. They can do it individually. It's something they can do with you, and the control of error is that the picture looks the same. So it does take some knowledge on their part for that control of error. But of course you can be right there, or an older sibling. I encourage you to allow older siblings to help. They're great models for the children. It teaches everybody something. And the greatest student can teach, right? That's how we know the greatest form of learning is teaching. And so when I see a child that can teach an activity to another child, I know that they've mastered it. So that's something I definitely look for. So go through these. You could also, once you've printed 2 copies, play Go Fish with these. The kids love to play Go Fish. Maybe that's a better way to involve older siblings. And so that's our other activities, guys. So you have your plant that you can observe, maybe even want to keep a journal and allow the children to express themselves through drawing a picture each day of how the plant's progressing. I would love for you to send me pictures of that, Miss LeeAnn's place maybe, or how your beans are doing, your little plants. You have this activity here, which you can use in 3 ways, as a worksheet, and the 2 different ways of making it work that they can repeat over and over. And then you have the sequencing cards and the matching or Go Fish activity. Some of the kids might just want to flip through these. They just like to see the pictures. And it's a great conversation starter. Okay, guys, please contact me with any questions for anything about making your work cycle happen the best that you can. Of course, all of this is just suggestions from my experience and the way we do it at Miss LeeAnn's place. We're all just trying to make it through right now and make some sweet memories while we're at home in this precious time with our kids. All right, love you guys and God bless. Miss LeeAnn loves you.